Hi, welcome back. My name is Aaron, and we're at the Canadian Science Policy Conference, and I'm here with Samantha Yammine, a PhD candidate at the University of Toronto. So,
hello.
How you doing?
Good.
So you're here at the Canadian Science Policy Conference, and I want to know a little bit about the research that you do in your PhD.
I'm currently finishing up my PhD, and I've been studying in the lab of Dr. Derek van der Kooi, trying to understand how the brain is formed. You have 171 billion cells in your brain right now, and we're just fascinated to understand where those come from. You might think back of your family tree, for example, and the different siblings you might have, grandparents, parents, and we want to map out with the same level of detail how all the cells that you now have in your brain were formed during development. And we think that there are these really interesting different types of stem cells that help to build all the cells of the brain, and my PhD has been devoted to mapping them out and learning everything we can about them.
Awesome, sounds very interesting. But the thing is that you're here because you do a lot of science communication. So tell me a little bit about what drove you to do that science communication, showing us an in-depth look at the work that you do, and were there any barriers to you doing that as part of your PhD research?
It really feels full circle being back in Ottawa for something science policy related, thinking about my science communication journey thus far, still in the starting phases, because I was, as a young researcher, as many of us are, I got a bit frustrated with the funding situation, especially for the type of research that we fund. I find we're always so translational, especially in the biological sciences. And I was frustrated because I saw the importance of fundamental basic biology, just asking the why questions without necessarily trying to solve all problems at once. All stages are important, but I was finding there was an underfunding situation in the early stages of the pipeline. So I went to this week-long science policy workshop called Science Outside the Lab North to learn more about why the funding situation is the way it is. And it was there that I realized, well, the policymakers are working really hard and actually shared my values. The scientists had all these frustrations, and the people that we weren't including in our conversations for solutions were the people of the public. And so my solution, or the only thing I felt I could do at this stage of my career, was to start to engage those stakeholders who fund our research with their tax dollars. And so I thought I should bring what I do to the people, let them know what's going on in the labs that they support. And I realized that a lot of them are on social media, particularly Instagram, which just hit 1 billion monthly active users earlier this year. And I started sharing what I was doing in the lab on Instagram to try to engage people who might otherwise not know about where their tax dollars for science are going.
Cool. So the panel that you were talking on is about sort of innovating science communication. And so I'd like to know, what do you think about why we need to innovate science communication and why it's important for science policy?
It's a great question. Innovation is kind of a buzzword, but what does it actually mean? For us, we got to start with the definition of science communication. And what we discussed on the panel is that it's really dialogue and conversation. And the important thing is that it's really centered with people. That means that you have many diverse viewpoints that are considered. You try to include everyone that you can, remain accessible and inclusive with your communication, and that it's not subscribing to this deficit model where scientists just talk to people. It's that we talk with people, and that we ask as many questions as we are asked, and we make sure that it's a multi-directional dialogue. And so that's where the innovation comes in, and that's what our panel was talking about, is how we can better center people and multi-directional dialogue. Because in traditional media, that kind of was hard. You couldn't, type back to a newspaper or talk back to a newspaper. But with, modern use of social media being really popular, you can foster those types of things. With art, you can engage people and hook people who might not otherwise be interested. And so the innovative nature of our panel was really in doing communication and talking about communication in ways that we talk about everything else, but just applying it to science and remaining really people-centric.
Awesome, cool. So obviously we're at the Canadian Science Policy Conference, and I want to get from you what you think is, what's the most important thing about this conference? What do you see the value in it?
I have been wanting to come to CSPC for years. Since I did that week-long Science Outside the Lab North, I've been wanting to come to CSPC. I was excited I got to come this year and be a panelist because I wanted to be in that room where a lot of the decision makers are, one, so that I could learn from them, because I don't know much about the policymaking process, despite trying to learn. There's a lot of nuances, but also so I could share some ideas and bring some of my ideas as, you know, someone still earlier in their career, a scientific trainee, someone who speaks a lot with people about science. I want to bring some ideas to those people and see how we can work together and support one another. I'm really interested in seeing, you know, who's doing great work in Canada and how can I support it by helping them amplify it on social media. For me, that's really important. So I was excited to be here for that reason. Because it's such a great conference because it brings together people who are not usually in the same room. I think we need to keep working to bring in even more people from different parts of Canada with different experiences. That's an ongoing thing that we need to make a priority. But you still have, you know, a mixture of academic scientists, policymakers, and everyone in between and beyond that. And we don't often get the opportunity to chat, so it's really exciting to be here for the first time.
All right, and before we end, is there anywhere that people can go to find out more about the work that you do?
Yes, I'm pretty easy to find online because I'm online a lot. So you can find me at science.sam on Instagram and Hey Science Sam everywhere else, including my website, heysciencesam.com, and on Twitter at heysciencesam.
Well, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I hope you have a great rest of your conference.
Thank you. Thanks so much.